My name is Olivia Parker. I served in the U.S. Army for almost 10 years through sandstorms, surgeries, and nights so quiet, they made you forget what home sounded like. And then, just 3 weeks before Christmas, my father sent me a message that cut deeper than anything I faced overseas. Stay away this Christmas. It's better for everyone. That was it. No love, no questions, not even a lie to soften the blow. Just a decision made behind closed doors, delivered by text, like I was some overdue bill they finally decided to stop paying. I sat on the edge of my bed in a rented apartment in Missoula, holding my phone like it might explain itself. The walls around me were strung with cheap lights blinking like they were trying to cheer me up. But all I felt was cold, and not the kind you fix with a blanket. You'd think I'd be used to rejection by now. But nothing prepares you for being told by your own father that you're not wanted. Not even war. I was 8 the first time I realized I was extra. Not special, not cherished. Just extra. My parents had Tyler 2 years before me. He was golden from the start. Football in the fall, honor roll in the spring, and somehow never the one who got yelled at when things went sideways. I was the quiet one, the helper, the one who vacuumed before Dad got home so Mom wouldn't get that look again. My dad didn't hit. He didn't have to. His silence was louder than fists. Every time I tried to get close, he'd shift the subject or leave the room. When I brought home an art contest ribbon in 4th grade, he glanced at it and said I should spend more time on math. When I made varsity track in high school, he nodded once, then reminded me that no one pays you to run in circles. I joined the Army the day after graduation, not because I wanted to serve, but because I needed to escape. And maybe deep down, I thought wearing a uniform would finally make him proud. Turns out, it just made me invisible from farther away. In boot camp, I learned to iron perfect creases and take orders without flinching. I also learned that discipline doesn't hurt the way silence does. Deployment was hard, sure, but it was honest. You knew when you were in danger. You knew who the enemy was. Back home, the danger wore familiar faces. Mom always looked tired. She'd fidget with her wedding ring and say things like, "Just don't push him today." Tyler stopped calling me Liv once I shipped out. Just Olivia. Like I was a guest he couldn't wait to see me leave. I still tried. Every holiday I sent gifts. Birthdays I called. When the roof leaked, I wired money. When Mom broke her wrist, I took emergency leave and drove her to physical therapy. No one ever said thank you. But I told myself they felt it. When I made sergeant, I flew back for Christmas. I landed in uniform duffel bag on my back heart in my throat. Dad opened the door, took one look, and handed me a shovel. Said the driveway wasn't going to clear itself. Not a single word about the stripes on my sleeve, just snow and silence. I slept in the guest room. My old room had become Dad's office. The walls still smelled like printer ink and pipe tobacco. Tyler barely looked at me. Mom smiled too much too tightly, like she was afraid I might explode if she didn't keep things cheerful. I flew back to base the next morning. No one offered to drive me to the airport. I called a cab in the snow boots soaked, wondering if maybe I'd imagined the entire visit. I went back to the desert with the taste of cold coffee and cold shoulders in my mouth. But I kept calling. I kept mailing checks. I kept hoping. Hoping for one moment where Dad might look at me like he saw me. Not the disappointment, not the mistake, just me. That moment never came. And now, 10 years later, all that effort ended in a single text. 7 words that told me everything I already knew. That no matter what I did, I was never really part of that family. I was tolerated. And when tolerance ran out, I was discarded. What they didn't know was that something had changed. Not in them, in me. I was done begging to be let inside. I wasn't a soldier anymore. I was a woman with a name, a past, and something they hadn't counted on. A future. One I was ready to reclaim. I wasn't even looking for it. I was digging through old emails trying to distract myself from the silence when I saw the subject line. Mortgage documents, 2017. I almost skipped it. Back then, Dad had asked me to co-sign something for the house. Said it was just paperwork, a formality, nothing serious. I was 24, freshly promoted, and still naive enough to think saying yes might mean he was proud of me. I clicked the file. It opened slowly like it was holding its breath. There it was, my signature right next to his. Witnessed. Stamped. Legal. I scrolled down slower this time. Paragraph after paragraph of language I barely understood. Then I saw it. In the event of primary borrower default or voluntary transfer, the cosigner shall assume majority control over the property until the loan matures. Majority control. I blinked, read it again, and again. My name wasn't just there to back up a loan. It was there to take over if he ever dropped the ball. And he had. That's why he needed my signature. Weak credit. He couldn't get approval on his own. So he used me. My name, my record, my trust. I leaned back, heart thudding. All those years thinking I had no place at that table. No voice, no claim. And yet, on paper, I had more power than he did. I didn't feel angry, not yet. I felt quiet. Like someone who just found a loaded weapon they forgot they were carrying. Not because they meant to use it, but because someone pushed them far enough to check. I closed the laptop and sat in that silence. Something had shifted. Not because I wanted revenge, because I had something stronger than rage. Leverage. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one without options. I didn't call anyone. I didn't reply to the message. I didn't tell a soul what I had found. Instead, I made a list. Pulled out the old files, double-checked the terms, highlighted the clauses that mattered. I looked up the county property registry, confirmed what I suspected. The house was still under the same loan, and my name was still there. Quiet, binding, powerful. Then I called a lawyer. Not someone from town. A contact I met on base during a housing seminar. She specialized in veteran real estate disputes. I didn't explain much, just asked her to review a document I emailed over. Her response came back fast. You hold the majority interest. They can't make decisions without you. You can take control. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Not out of surprise, out of certainty. The kind of quiet resolve you earn after years of being dismissed. I drafted the letter myself. No drama, no anger, just facts. Effective immediately, I will be exercising my rights as co-owner and assuming management of the property. All communication was to go through legal counsel. I mailed it certified. No email, no text. I wanted them to hold that envelope in their hands. They didn't see it coming. That was the point. For years, I had been the one reaching out, checking in, sending money, asking to be included. Now I didn't ask. I acted. There's a calm that comes when you stop waiting for someone to do the right thing, when you stop needing their permission to exist. I wasn't retaliating. I was reclaiming. In silence with a signature, I changed the rules of the game, and they had no idea the board had shifted beneath their feet. I booked the cabin 2 days before Christmas. Remote, tucked into a snowy ridge outside Estes Park. No neighbors, no decorations, just silence and pine trees. When I got there, I turned off my phone and left it on the nightstand. I didn't want updates. I didn't want to hear their reactions. I wanted space. Real space. The kind no one could take from me. There was a small fireplace and a stack of logs already cut. I made coffee, wrapped myself in an old wool blanket, and sat by the window, watching the snow fall. It felt like being inside a snow globe. Someone had finally stopped shaking. I didn't feel lonely. I felt calm. For the first time in years, I wasn't navigating someone else's rules or moods. I wasn't waiting for someone to make room for me at their table. I had my own table, my own room, my own damn keys. On Christmas morning, I turned my phone back on. It buzzed like it had been holding its breath. 10 missed calls, 2 voicemails, 1 from Tyler, 1 from Dad, 3 from Mom, and 1 from a law office. I didn't listen to any of them. I scrolled, skimmed, and then set the phone face down. Not because I didn't care, because I didn't need to anymore. That morning, I made pancakes. Not from a box, from scratch. I played music on an old Bluetooth speaker and let the sound fill the little cabin. Outside, the snow piled up. Inside, there was warmth. I thought about the house. Not the structure, the symbolism. The years I spent thinking I needed it to feel whole. But sitting there in flannel pajamas sipping coffee from a chipped mug, I realized I didn't need their house. I had something better. I had peace. And this time, it came with a lock that only I had the code to. It was January 2nd, gray skies, and bitter wind cutting across the street as we pulled into the driveway. I wasn't alone. My lawyer was with me, along with a property manager and a locksmith. We came prepared not for a fight, but for clarity. Dad opened the front door before we knocked. His face was red eyes, sharp with disbelief, like he thought maybe I wouldn't actually show. His voice cracked as he barked my name, but I didn't stop. I walked past him into the house I legally co-owned, into the space that once made me feel small. The living room looked almost the same. Same old recliner. Same coffee table I helped move in back in high school. Only now, it didn't feel like theirs. It felt like evidence. Like a crime scene frozen in place. Mom stood at the bottom of the stairs, holding a rosary like it might shield her from what was happening. She didn't speak. Her eyes filled, but I didn't look away. I had spent too many years trying to make her feel better while I unraveled. This time, I needed her to feel what silence really meant. Tyler sat on the couch, pale and hunched. He looked like he wanted to say something, but the words never came. Just a slight shift in posture, as if maybe shrinking would make him invisible. I let the moment hang heavy and sharp. I cleared my throat and spoke calmly. As of this morning, I was assuming full management rights of the property under legal authority. They had 30 days to formalize tenancy under new terms or vacate. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't apologize. I read from the clipboard one line at a time. Dad lost it. He shouted accused and stomped toward me like anger could undo paperwork. I let him. I stood there firm, unmoved. Then I said the one thing that stopped him cold. You gave this house away the day you made me feel like a stranger in it. The locksmith stepped forward, tools in hand. Dad backed off. Not in surrender, but in confusion. It hadn't registered until that moment. This wasn't a bluff. This was real. I looked at them, each of them, not with revenge, with finality. They had erased me long before I signed that document. I was just returning the favor with law and backbone instead of silence and shame. This wasn't about payback. This was about presence. I was here now, on my terms, in my name, and they couldn't ignore that anymore. I handed the formal notice to my father and watched his eyes scan the words like they might rearrange themselves. 30 days. That's what the paper said. 30 days to decide if they wanted to stay under my terms or walk away from the house they once used to shut me out. No one argued this time. The room had gone quiet, the kind of quiet that follows a storm not because it's over, but because everyone finally understands it wasn't wind. It was fire. My mother opened her mouth like she might plead, but nothing came out. Tyler didn't even look up. I wasn't surprised. They were used to me needing them. They had no playbook for this version of me. The one who no longer asked. The one who no longer explained. I told them the property manager would return in 10 days to inspect compliance. Any violations would be documented. Any interference would be treated as obstruction. I didn't say it with cruelty. I said it like reading a calendar date. Neutral. Fixed. There was no threat in my voice. No warmth either. What I offered wasn't punishment. It was distance. The space I never got when I needed it most. Before I turned to leave, I looked around one last time. Not out of nostalgia, out of closure. This was never really home. Just a structure where I learned how to disappear quietly. And now, finally, how to walk out just as quietly without asking permission. The house was empty when I came back. No furniture, no notes. Just a few marks on the walls and a pile of dust in the corner where a bookshelf used to be. It didn't feel like a victory. It felt like a room waiting to breathe again. I walked through each room, slowly touching the door frames, the window sills, the places that once held silence like a second skin. In Tyler's old room, I found a cracked phone charger and a photo curled at the edges. In the hallway closet, a single winter glove. I didn't cry. I just gathered what mattered and left the rest. Then I started making calls. To a nonprofit I once partnered with overseas. To a therapist I met through the VA. To a woman I served with who'd lost her home after discharge and never talked about it. I told them I had space. Real space. And a vision. We fixed the plumbing first, then the attic. We pulled up old carpet and found original wood underneath scarred but strong. The kind you don't cover. The kind that tells a story. We didn't paint over everything. We cleaned. We repaired. But we kept some of the cracks. The ones that reminded us we could hold our weight and still stand. The ones that made the place honest. I named it the Monroe House. Not for legacy, not for ego, for clarity. Monroe was mine. Not a hand-me-down. Not a name I had to earn. Just mine. The women who came were different in their details but familiar in their eyes. Sleepless, guarded, brave in ways the world doesn't always see. They didn't ask for pity. They asked for coffee, a warm bed, a front door that locked behind them and felt like safety. We gave them that, one room at a time. We cooked together, argued over playlists, fixed leaky faucets, and learned how to laugh again. Not loud at first, but real. Reporters came eventually. Someone had heard about the house and wanted a headline. I gave them what I was willing to share. A veteran reclaims property after being cut off by her family, turns it into a home for others like her. That was enough. This wasn't about exposing anyone. It was about restoring something. Not a building, a belief. That we are allowed to start over. That we can write our names on something and say this is mine without asking for permission. Every Christmas now, I light a candle on the front porch. Just one. For the girl I used to be. The one who stood in the snow outside someone else's house and wondered what it would take to be let in. She doesn't stand there anymore. Now she opens the door and welcomes others home.